So today is Keys to Success number 105, how to be healthy as a vegetarian. Don't freak out yet. I'm Dr. Martin Rutherford, certified functional medicine practitioner, chiropractor.
Dr. Randall Gates, board certified chiropractic neurologist, also a chiropractor.
This is a request from one of our viewers of the Keys to Success. And their interest was in how to be healthy as a vegetarian because they have some spiritual beliefs, or however you might put them, relative to not wanting to eat animals eventually. But we do use vegetarian diets occasionally. The question, I think, was generated from the fact that Dr. Gates and I have intermittently mentioned that we're vegetarians, as we are, okay, for a variety of reasons, some of which you might be exposed to here in the next couple minutes. And so, we're going to address that for that person. As most of you know, we're not recommending vegetarian diets to very many of our patients. There are a couple of categories of patients that really do well, do better, much better on the vegetarian diet. In order to get that person clinically to where our prognosis is indicated we want to get them, or we feel we're able to get them, and I'll leave that up to Dr. Gates to discuss that aspect of it. For me, I'm a vegetarian for a lot of different reasons, but there was one particular time that cemented it. Even though I was going through low blood sugar lows at that point in time and falling asleep during the lectures. That was the seminar that we went to up in Portland, Oregon, by a colleague of ours who brought in 19 experts from around the world to discuss diet and its relationship to chronic pain. And it just had that humongous slide up there half the time we were sitting there in between. And it just had like 95% of the slide was fruits and vegetables. And then it had a piece of salmon. And then it had a little piece of unmarbled red meat stuck up in the corner there, representing kind of how they thought your diet should look. But then the vast majority of the presenters who did research and were presenting data on this is good for you, and that's good for you, and this is good for you, and that's good for you, and that's good for you, and this is good for you, this nutrient's good for you, that nutrient's good for you, this antioxidant's good. And then it came down to eat this vegetable, and I think they had reviewed 20,000 or 2,000.
Over 2,000.
2,000, over 2,000 peer-reviewed journal references and all that. It was like, after that, it was just kind of like, okay, I was actually already a vegetarian at that point in time, but it kind of cemented it as, from the perspective of just pure science, in my opinion. So, but there's more to it than that. And as I stated, don't get stressed out. We're not going to start recommending everybody has to be a vegetarian. And there are clinical reasons for that, and there are just practical reasons for that. So I'll leave it to our master clinician here as to explain this.
Yeah, and as you said, most of our patients are on a meat-based diet. And it's funny because we've had patients come in who are vegan and actually get mad at us because the majority of our patients are eating meat. And one has to realize that there's no right diet for anybody. That's
a philosophical stand. That's true. That was a philosophical stand on that couple's part. That was a recent thing that happened. And to describe it, one of our supplements, which we didn't know, had one teeny tiny little aspect of something in it that could have been an animal product. And so that allowed them to lose confidence in our ability to understand vegetarianism, which I would suggest is incorrect. But that's a point. Philosophically, that's a point of that aspect of vegetarianism is something that makes your job a little bit more difficult.
Absolutely, it does. Yeah. The thing is that you take the average American, what we've all been eating, breads, pastas, cereals, and most people are not even aware how much they are eating, because we look at food diaries on every patient that comes in, and
they eat a lot.
They eat a lot of it. No, I don't eat that much bread. And then you look at it, and it's 2 slices of toast for breakfast, French bread at night, oatmeal with breakfast. There's just a lot of grains in the diet. So when you take somebody from the standard American diet and you transition them into a paleo-esque type of diet, it's a huge shock, and it can really throw people's blood sugar systems out of whack for a number of weeks. People have detox symptoms. And so it would be an arduous task to take every patient who's eating the standard American diet and put them onto a vegetarian, paleo, egg-free diet like you and I eat, which is really cumbersome. So it can be done, to answer the question.
It makes
of
the job
viewer.
harder for them.
It makes the job harder for you. It makes
For
the
the
job
patient.
harder for me, because, you know, frequently people will say to me, there's nothing I can eat. There's nothing I can eat. And I just think to myself, well, come eat with me. Because we eat pretty much the same thing every day, day in and day out. Because you get to a point where food just becomes nutrition for the most part, and the social and ambiance experiences with food don't become as important, because feeling good is really the more important factor. To answer the question of the viewer, can somebody be vegetarian on a paleo-esque diet? Yes, you absolutely can. Typically, it involves some introduction of nut products, because you need protein and fat sources from that type of food. You're also going to need pea protein or hemp protein, some form of animal protein to supplement, because otherwise you're not going to get any protein. And as Dr. Rutherford said too, it's really a healthier diet for the most part than, let's say, eating meat. Because even if somebody's eating organic meats, you're still getting an inflammatory fat ratio to non-inflammatory of 4-to-1. Whereas when you're vegetarian, these inflammatory fats are pretty much non-existent.
Right.
If you want to talk to any cardiologist, what do they say? They always say they recommend being a vegetarian because it's the best thing overall for the vasculature. Look at the China study. The China study is very definitive, and where in China, they log everything that people eat. And then when they die, whatever they die of, they go back and correlate what they ate. You know, and we have like 1 billion people plus over in that region of the world. And the study came out from a scientist at Cornell demonstrating that when you eat basically a vegetarian diet, high plant-based diet, your chances of cancer go way down. Now, all of you probably know a vegan who got cancer, which is everybody's rationale for why they shouldn't be a vegetarian. But also know that scientist at Cornell lost a lot of his funding when he came out with this, because most nutrition professors get their funding from the FDA or the USDA, which has a huge dairy and beef lobby. That's a side point. But the main point is, we're not pushing this on you. We're not, you know, projecting that all of you need to be vegetarians, obviously, because 95% of you, we have eating meat. But for those of you, if you want to become a vegetarian, let us know. We can sit down on an appointment, and I can show you how to do it if it's something of interest to you.
And you need to take the B12 vitamins.
You got to take your B vitamins.
You need to take the B12 vitamins. And McDougall made his whole world on that back in the 70s, 80s. Right. I don't know. For those of you who are not on West Coast or haven't been involved in this field, there's a Dr. McDougall. Wasn't he a cardiologist?
I think he was an internist.
Was he an internist? But he made his mark in. You would go to his clinic in the wine country in Napa Valley. Nice place to go. And he basically would put you on a vegetarian diet and heavy exercise all week, and the numbers would just drop precipitously. Your blood sugar would stabilize, your heart, your fat numbers would go down, and so on and so forth. And he's done tons of books on it and all that type of stuff. But there, you know, so it's a valid thing to do. So it's very complex. I mean, it's in a sense of so mentally and socially and stuff like that. But this presentation again was for someone who asked, I've seen your stuff, and I'd like to get there someday. Is there really a healthy way to do it? And I would say, well, I mean, we're doing it. I think we're pretty healthy. I think we're probably healthier than most people at this point in time, particularly for having the types of conditions that led us to this profession.
And people say you'll become weak being a vegetarian. I deadlifted a car last weekend. So Dr. Rutherford came and supported me at my strongman event. So I call it veggie power.
Yeah. There you go. There you go. So yes. So no, you can. It can be tricky in this society. I would argue that maybe the United States of America may be the most difficult place on planet Earth to be a vegetarian. I mean, so there's a lot of different aspects to it for those of you who are interested in potentially getting into it. But that's kind of like the skinny on it. We only use it for a couple of different types of entities, and here it's very, very, very rarely recommended, other than one or two particular scenarios of when a person isn't getting to where they need to be. for us to justify having had them in here, and that's not that often. So
not that often. True.
So it can be done, and that's kind of that. So
That's all I
okay.
had to say.
So keys to success 105 in the can.
And I believe we had a request next week for something on chronic pain. So we'll do that for the viewer out there watching. So thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you soon.